And welcome back to another episode of Double Doink Podcast. My name is Brenden D. Thanks so much for tuning in today. We are talking strictly Philadelphia Eagles. We're going to break down who we think is going to make the 53-man roster with cutdown day coming soon, only in a couple days. No one else will do it than my man, my friend Thomas Petersen. Thomas, how we doing? You have a full day right now. It's 7:30 a.m. here, so we're kind of switching roles here. Usually you're the one,
Yeah.
and I'm the one. I already had a full day, but
Yeah.
I'm awake. It feels good.
Yeah. I've had all day to sit here and think about roster construction, so I have no excuses whatsoever of not nailing this thing.
It's the first time I'm doing this, or we're doing this. We didn't do this last year, but
Yeah.
I think it's a good exercise to kind of dive into see who we're going to make it. I think the Eagles have a lot of tough decisions to make. I don't think the preseason game really brought any juice. There wasn't much to kind of go off there. We'll touch on that, but I want to get your opinion on the Dallas Cowboys trade for quarterback Trey Lance last night. I was on the news desk by myself, so I got the opportunity to cover that at the Score. It was pretty entertaining. What do you make of this?
Yeah, I mean, the Cowboys have finally set a quarterback, man. This is the move they had to make because otherwise they wouldn't be contenders. I mean, I saw the stupidest thing, like Cooper Rush, Dak Prescott, and Trey Lance, like illustrated in pictures. It was like, is this the best QB room in the NFL? Like, Jesus Christ.
God.
Yeah, the guy who couldn't beat out Darnold and Brock Purdy is moving the needle for anyone. Jesus.
It seems like a weird time to do this. We were kind of talking before the show. It doesn't make a lot of sense for me on the Cowboy side of things. Like the only kind of, I guess, possible reason why they're doing this is because they loved Trey Lance during the draft process. Yeah. Like they had a really high grade on him. So like he's available in the fourth round. I guess that's probably the most likely outcome why this happened.
I think a fourth round pick is too high. I mean,
I agree. It's not nothing
price to pay for a guy who has been nothing but injured and unable to beat out anyone. Basically failed with one of the most QB friendly teams. Like the team with Shanahan, the QB whisperer who can make anybody work, couldn't make Trey Lance work. So I don't know, man.
I think once they saw the first fourth round pick come their way in a trade offer, they just like ran to it and they're like, we'll take it. Adam Schefter said that a bunch of there were a few teams engaged, and then the Cowboys kind of just came flying in, and we're like, here's a fourth round pick, and the I was like, cool, let's get this done.
Yeah,
I agree. I think like a fourth round pick's not nothing, like especially for like to be a potential backup after already playing 2 seasons, so they could get him for another couple years. But if you're going to sign Dak Prescott long term, anyways, you're banking on like your development team to really develop this guy into a solid backup. At the moment, he couldn't beat out Sam Darnold's.
And I don't. Cooper Rush was terrific when he took over. I mean, it was they won more with him. He was taking care of the ball a lot better than Dak Prescott was. I mean, it was. I know we made a little bit of fun of it, but that was a like legit conversation to be had that CD Lamb was doing better with Cooper Rush than he ever did with Dak Prescott. And it was. I don't think it makes sense. They're basically trading a fourth round pick for a guy to be QB3.
Yeah. And like you really need to develop this guy. Like if you're sitting there going, we can do better than what Kyle Shanahan did, like it kind of just it's weird. And the other side of things for the 49ers, like if Brock Purdy doesn't play out here, Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch should be kind of on the hot seat, in my opinion. Like if that was they gave up an absolute haul. Like that was one of the worst draft day trades now of all time.
Yeah, it's weird, man.
Actively rooting for against the 49ers and Cowboys is definitely going to be exciting this year. Yeah. If you were to play a game, if you're the Eagles, and you had to win the game to move on to the Super Bowl tomorrow, and you could pick your opponent, 49ers or Cowboys, who would you pick?
Who I'd rather play?
Yeah, if you're the Eagles.
49ers.
I agree.
I think the Eagles match up so much better against the 49ers. Yeah.
I think Dallas is their biggest threat in the NFC this year.
Yeah, Dallas will also need to see what happens now that McCarthy is the primary play caller. Like, there's so much unknown about them, whereas the 49ers, Eagles just thoroughly beat their ass just a little bit ago, and nothing's changed for them, really.
Mm-hmm. They got worse at offensive line. Like, I still think the pass rush can kind of dominate there. I think Dallas is a better team. But those are the two biggest threats. Like those are the two teams, and nothing's changed from last year, in my opinion. The NFC, like those are the three best teams from last year, are still the three best teams from this year. Okay, is there anything the third preseason game that you want to touch on? Devin Allen had a nice kick return. Eli Ricks played really well. He locked up Alec Pierce and Michael Pittman on one drive. That was pretty cool. He's locked himself a roster spot, which we'll get into, in my opinion. Tyreek Maddox-Williams, the linebacker that they signed off the streets a couple days ago.
I had no idea who that guy was. Like I saw the nameplate on the back. It was like, what?
They saw. You remember that wave? Those 10 roster moves they made with Greedy Williams. Like he was in his name. He was squeezed in there. I didn't think anything of it, but he looked great, man. I think he won himself a practice squad job at least.
Yeah, for sure, definitely. Mm-hmm. I mean, a guy who makes plays like that. I think Fredman Sumerin also got himself a practice squad spot with that game.
17 tackles.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a guy that you want to have as a depth piece to be able to move up if you need special teams guys throughout the year. No chance in hell that he's making the final 53. Otherwise, something would have to go terribly wrong.
No.
But yeah. Other than that, I have no shame in admitting that I woke up at 2 a.m. in the middle of the night. I put on the game and I fell asleep.
You didn't miss much. I know. I had a softball game at 7:40. The game started at 8, so I wasn't planning on watching, and we got rained out halfway through my softball. So I kind of scurried home, caught the second half, and I didn't really pay attention that much. The Toronto Blue Jays were on. I was kind of watching that on the side, so it wasn't really kind of worth our time. But yeah, not much to take away. I think like there's some interesting kind of like who was playing. Like Kayvon Wallace played like deep into the fourth quarter, which I kind of caught my eye.
Yeah,
Davius Street didn't play, which we'll get into, which I think kind of secures him a spot. In my opinion, there was a couple little roster and depth chart things that you can kind of take away, but overall, it's a third preseason game. The Eagles didn't play a single offensive starter all preseason. Which did they? I know. Did any of the offensive line play at all in the preseason?
Of the starting offensive line?
Starting. Did any offensive starter play? Yeah.
Nope.
I thought. Right call on Sirianni's part. I think it's stupid that teams play their starters, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Like Anthony Richardson played a half against the Eagles' third stringers.
Yeah.
And what do you make of the bird celebration, flapping the wings? Big topic on Eagles Twitter yesterday.
Yeah, it was a big topic. Honestly, I think I think it had more to do with the how the whole joint practice ended. Mm-hmm. I think that was a serious talking point for Colts players after that practice of how that whole thing ended, and because that the flap in the wings was what it was. Like I get the perspective of this is just a young guy who finally had a touchdown after a really subpar start to.
He didn't even score. He didn't even score.
I mean, they didn't. And he didn't really lead any drives to anything particular successful, and so I think that was what it was. But then when the Colts official Twitter put out that video of players like coming up to the camera like posing and we go to get that W in Birdtown or whatever the fuck they were saying.
Yeah.
Like, it was like then it became a thing because then it was clearly something on the mind of a lot of their players. And I gotta say, to be honest, I have no idea who those Colts players were in the video. I don't know if that was the last game they would ever play in their life and they're going back to stocking groceries. But I have no idea. I just know that if I was a Colts fan and that was the way that I saw the starters posing after just narrowly beating guys who won't be on any NFL team in a week, I would be embarrassed.
Yeah. AJ Brown actually had a tweet. He deleted it within like 3 minutes. I saw it before he deleted it. He put like a bunch of like disappointed memes, like quote tweeting the Eagles or the Colts with that tweet. He deleted. AJ Brown likes to delete his tweets. He likes to get his mind up and then he just deletes them after a couple minutes. It's kind of his thing. But I agree. I thought that was kind of pretty stupid. Yeah, I get it. A young kid. He got excited. All for that. All for some fun. But maybe do it when you actually score the touchdown and not the running back. And maybe do it in a game that you don't go 6 for 17 against Eagles' third-string defensive players.
Especially when you've just been handed your ass in joint practice.
Exactly. Okay, so what we're going to do, Thomas and I each filled out our 53-man rosters on a spreadsheet. So if you're following along on YouTube, you'll be able to see the spreadsheet on the screen. If you're listening on the audio format, Thomas and I will read out the names and we'll kind of talk about our decision making and whatnot. So if you're only listening to audio, don't worry. We'll keep you engaged. And if you're listening on YouTube, thank you for doing that. Make sure to hit that YouTube subscribe button and continue following on YouTube. Anyways, Thomas, are you ready to go? Eagles 53-man roster prediction of 2023. Let's do it.
I'm ready to be right.
All right, so I'm going to present our screen here. All right, so the spreadsheet is up. You can see both Thomas and I's rosters on top to bottom here. We'll go through each position and kind of explain our thinking. So starting at the quarterback position, Thomas, I think it's pretty straightforward. We each have Jalen Hurts, Marcus Mariota, and Tanner McKee.
Yeah. Ian didn't do anything to really sway us in any way. No. Marcus Mariota was equally terrible in this preseason game that he has been before. He's not good. It kind of worries me a little bit of how bad he is. But then again, for me, it was more like, where do we put McKee? Where do we put Mariota? And we discussed this in the previous episode that they're not going to move around right now in this year, but they're not going to keep Mariota after this season, I'm sure. And so it'll just be a matter of whether McKee can be the QB2 moving forward.
Mm-hmm. Do you think is there like a sliver of doubt in your mind that Mariota fully makes the team? Like, do you think I don't think any team's going to trade for him. Cutting him to me seems expensive. So I pretty like it's pretty much
they're paying him too much to cut him, basically.
Agreed. Tanner McKee's been awesome in the preseason, so
you just gotta hope that it's a matter of learning a new offense and that it's kind of all overwhelming. And now that Jalen Hurts goes in there, he can, like, Mariota can kind of relax and get out of the spotlight like he wants to. And then if he has to come in the game, he can put everything on the line in a situation like that. So we pray we never get to discuss the QB depth ever again.
Hopefully it's not a topic of conversation during the season. Okay, running back. We each have 4 running backs making the roster, the same 4. Kenneth Gainwell, DeAndre Swift, Rashad Penny, and Boston Scott. Unfortunately, Trey Sermon just didn't have a strong enough preseason to kind of deserving of a roster spot. He had that fumble. He was kind of up and down. I think the Eagles still like him in the building. I think they'll probably try to keep him around and squeeze him on the practice squad. I don't see a team going out of their way on roster cutdown day to put him on a roster. So I'm pretty confident that he's going to be on the practice squad.
Yeah. I think it's pretty safe to say. Like, we always hype up running backs a little bit more than we should. And I think more often than not, they're clearing waivers. They can't all be like that former Eagles running back whose name escapes me that went to the 49ers and was really good. Raheem Mostert.
Yeah, and like I said, I think we talked about this last podcast episode. Trey Sermon, when the Eagles cleaned him off waivers, the Eagles were like 21st or 22nd in the waiver wire order. So there were already 20 teams that had the chance to pick him up before the Eagles got to him. So that kind of shows you what everyone around the league thinks. Poor Kennedy Brooks, his Eagles tenure is going to be over. Maybe he gets on the practice squad. We'll see what they think of him. But I think the 4 running backs have been kind of solidified for the last couple of weeks. I don't think there's been a question that those guys are going to make the roster. And it's going to be interesting to see how it kind of all goes with the running back by committee style and how the touches play out. If you were to guess who the Eagles' leading rushing yards is and carries as of today, who would you pick?
DeAndre Swift.
Okay. I think if DeAndre Swift stays healthy, it's the right answer.
Yeah, exactly. That's the little asterisk to it. Is if he stays healthy, I think he can be. His ceiling is one of the most productive running backs in the NFL, especially on a per carry, per touch basis, behind the Eagles O-line with Jalen Hurts and that read offense style, because he's just a natural at making tacklers miss. And in the Eagles offense, you more often than not, you have to make one guy miss and you have space. And I think he is more the guy in this 4-man running back group that has that ability. And I just think it just looked different when it was DeAndre Swift on the field or in practice when he is taking reps than when all the other guys. You just see the extra juice.
Agreed. I personally think ultimately Kenneth Gainwell does end up leading the team in rushing yards and carries, just because I don't think DeAndre Swift's going to stay healthy for 17 games. But if you were to give Howie true serum right now and say, who do you want to lead the team in rushing yards and carries, they'll probably say DeAndre Swift. I think it's going to be pretty close. I was actually really surprised at some of the efficiency numbers behind Kenneth Gainwell Thomas. He's led the league in EPA per carry over the last 2 years. Like, he's been incredibly efficient at just getting the yards in front of him. He just doesn't have those big breakout runs. He had the long run in the Giants at the end of that divisional round game. Besides that, like, he doesn't have like those 40-yard, 50-yard bursts. He just kind of takes what's in front of him. So I think DeAndre Swift gives you, and I also think Rashad Penny can give you that as well, like that extra gear where you can get those big long runs where the Eagles desire in this offense since it's so run heavy.
Yeah.
If you're like me, you are tired of trying to find jeans that fit right no matter your build and still look good. Introducing the newest sponsor of the Double Doink podcast, Sweat Tailor, a premium menswear brand that is defining a new kind of casual. I started wearing Sweat Tailor and I am blown away by how comfortable and affordable the clothes are. And of course, they look great. My favorite is the all-in pants. It's a 5-pocket pant that feels like sweats but look way better. Thoughtfully tailored and unbelievably stretchy. From jackets and pants to joggers and hoodies, Sweat Tailor's designs are made to seamlessly fit into your life, moving from runway to office, office to drinks, and drinks to wherever the night takes you. Specializing in casual wear for men, pieces are designed with comfort and versatility in mind for your everyday. Use promo code BDEEGST. That is BDEEGST for 25% off. That again is BDEEGST for 25% off your order at sweattailor.com. Okay, let's move on to the next position, wide receiver. Here's where we have a little bit. Here's our first kind of disagreement here. I only have 4 wide receivers making the roster to start off. I have AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, Quez Watkins, and Olamide Zaccheaus. I think, Thomas, that what they're going to do is cut Britton Covey and Devin Allen. I don't see a team picking up Devin Allen or Britton Covey. I think Joseph Agata played himself off the roster over the last couple weeks. He was kind of disappointing the tail end of camp. So those are the only kind of guys I could see making the roster. I just don't see why Britton Covey deserved a spot just to be a punt returner. He's been injured. He hasn't done much when he was active in training camp. Like, I don't see why the Eagles need to dish out a roster spot for him. The league pretty much knows what he is. They have all the tape they have. Like, well, I don't see a team giving up a 53-man roster spot for Britton Covey if they expose him to waivers. So I think he's a guy that you can cut, stash back on the practice squad. And I do think the wide receiver position, Thomas, is going to be they're going to be very active there on roster cutdown day. I expect them to take a look around, see what the league's doing. There's going to be over 1,000 guys losing jobs that day. So there's going to be some wide receivers that they like. Now, of course, the Eagles are going to be at the very bottom of the pecking order in the waiver wire. So it's going to be tougher for them to kind of find the guys they like. But I think there's going to be enough talent out there where if they find a guy that they can stash at the bottom of the 53-man depth chart at the wide receiver position that can return punts, field kicks, stuff like that, well, they'll be able to do that. If they don't, then they can always elevate Britton Covey from the practice squad.
Right. Yeah, I think your argument makes sense in the way that no team is gonna, like, we're not gonna have a situation where both Allen and Covey get cut and then both are getting picked up by someone else.
No.
So the chance that Eagles can bring one of them or maybe even both back to the practice squad and then elevate whoever of them deserves to be the punt returner in that specific game. They can absolutely do that. And also, I don't think they have a special bond to either of them. Like you said, that they can't just bring someone else in and then return punts. Like, I don't know, Freddie Swain, for example, coming in off the side like that.
Exactly.
But then again, the reason why I put Allen on my team here is that I just think that I've seen like a good handful of clips off of practice, especially here with the Colts, where he's burning guys. Like he's really running good routes out there, and that shiftiness or the speed is not only in a straight line speed, it's also when he's moving around. And if I took a swing here and said, if the coaches are seeing him developing in that area and that skill has been exposed to other teams that they've practiced against, like, I think if they say that we might have something here, I think they want to stash him just to have 5 receivers on the team, because 4 is not a lot.
Yeah, I think Devin Allen is more likely to be picked up off waivers than someone else, or than Britton Covey, sorry. Like the Tennessee Titans, for instance, like if you go take a look at their wide receiver depth chart, it is atrocious. Like a team like that needs a stash speed somewhere, I could see it.
Also, just the name value, because he's like, his name's been floating out there. Like he is an Olympic Olympic athlete who's dominating another sport like that. I think that actually means something when you're in that deep tier of guys to pick up on teams.
All right, there's our first little disagreement here. Thomas has Devin Allen on the roster with 5 wide receivers. I only have the Eagles taking 4 wide receivers to start. We're ruined for a baby. I think he'd be fun. Like, of course, I'd want him on the roster. I think it'd be cool. He looked explosive in that kick return as well. But he said after the game that was the first time he's returned a kick in 7 to 8 years. So, like, I don't think you can trust him off the bat. I think if you're putting him on the roster, you're putting him as like a 5th wide receiver. Like, you're gonna
try to if he scored on that play, we will be seeing like Deshaun Jackson miracle out of Meadowlands dropping the punt, and we'll be seeing Devon Allen dropping that kickoff, and they'll be playing side by side.
That's a good point. Okay. So that's wide receiver. Tight end, we're in agreement. We have been taking 3 tight ends. Dallas Goedert, Jack Stoll, and Grant. Any potential that you were going to have someone else extend a Greg Calcaterra or like Tyree Jackson, one of those guys, kind of catch your eye?
I think it's pretty set with these 3 guys here. I don't see anybody else really. What else do we have that could threaten these guys? Like, Jack Stoll is obviously the guy that they like as the has the blocking ability in there. Calcaterra, they spent a draft pick on. Whenever he's been on the field last year, he really contributed, and if it wasn't for Mariota and his ability to sail every single pass, we would have seen a lot more production from Calcaterra in the preseason here. And I don't really. Like, Dan Arnold just doesn't do it for me. He looks unathletic. Brady Russell, it is what it is. Like,
Brady Russell's like prime practice squad guy.
Yeah. Tyree Jackson is probably the one guy that we should have a discussion about, if anyone, simply because of, like, he looks more and more like a tight end. But like, if I have to choose between Calcaterra and Tyree, I think Calcaterra is the better football player.
Agreed. This one, I didn't put too much thought in. I'm pretty sure the Eagles are not going to take more than 3 tight ends for one. I think they like Greg Calcaterra in the building. He kind of came on towards the end of camp as well. He's a guy they want to invest in. So I think they're going to give him a roster spot. He had that nice 40-yard catch last year. Like, you saw the burst. He didn't get a ton of playing time. But I think he's a guy they're going to keep around. And Jack Stoll, they just love. Like, Jalen Hurts trusts him. Like, he's thrown the ball to him before. We talked, I think we brought this up on the podcast at some point. Like, if you remember the 2021 game when the Eagles sat out all the starters a week 18 against the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Stoll got the day off too. Like, they like him enough where they're not going to play him in week 18. So 2 years ago, he's sticking around. So Jack Stoll's going to be tight end number 2.
I agree. Yeah, 100%.
Okay, offensive line. This is kind of where we were both kind of texting. We were both messaging each other going, we have no idea what they're going to do at the offensive line position. So the starters are kind of in stone. Lane Johnson, Jordan Mailata, Jason Kelsey, Cam Jurgens, and Landon Dickerson. We both have those 5 on the roster. Now, they just signed Fred Johnson to a 2-year contract to be the backup offensive tackle after releasing him. We were both really confused why they cut him because he was starting to come on in preseason. So it was just a procedural move in the end. So we like that. Fred Johnson's getting on the team. Tyler Steen's going to be on the team as well. They spent a high draft pick on him. So he's going to be on the roster. Jack Driscoll's going to be on the roster as well. So that's 8. Now, this is where it kind of got tricky for me, Thomas. I put Suopeta on there. I don't love it. Like, I don't know what their feeling is with Suopeta and how they like him at the moment, but they like to go big. They like to stash a lot of offensive linemen. So I think they're going to keep 9 or 10. So Suopeta was the first name that I kind of got on the 9 spot. And then I have them taking Josh Andrews as a 10th offensive lineman. I don't love it. That's probably the least confident pick I have on my entire roster. So that's my 10, Thomas. Explain what you got.
Yeah, I was really going back and forth with Josh Andrews as well. And actually, like, when the Eagles released Fred, I had Fred on it to begin with, and then they released him. I took him off, and then Josh Andrews was the guy that I put on. So when they signed Fred back, I took Josh Andrews off. But yeah, he'll be my next in line guy if I was to pick 10, like you have here. I think Opeta is the guy I chose simply because of familiarity and how long he's worked with Jeff Stoutland. I don't think there's anybody else of the bigger guys in there in the guard rotation like Toth and Sills and Tom that I think are Good Jones to include them all there. Yeah, I don't think there's any.
Julian Good Jones actually overtook Josh Sills on the depth chart. Like, Josh Sills has completely fallen off the depth chart.
Yeah, I don't think any one of those guys really provide anything to me from a skill skill set value that I think means more than the familiarity that Stoutland has with Suopeta. Like they've been together for a couple of years now, and I think that means more to Jeff than the rest of the guys there. There are no special talents otherwise than that. Wanted to keep 10 if I could, but I just don't think that the depth the depth talent is as good this year as it's been in prior years. Now that Isaac Samalo is out of there, it moves up the rest here, and now that we have Cam starting, the depth falls off a little bit. Otherwise than that, it would have been easy to go like Steen, Driscoll, Cam, and Fred as the backups, and then you'd have a good backup set. But now, I don't think that I don't think the rest of the guys move the needle for me.
No, I think this is probably the worst. It's not a big deal. Like Eagles, it could be a big deal at some point in the year, but this is probably the weakest the depth of the Eagles offensive line has been in quite a while. A lot of these guys that they brought in to develop, like a Brett Toth, people like that just haven't panned out. So they kind of, it's probably almost like the changing of the guard. Now we're going to see in the Eagles depth of the offensive line. I think they're also going to be very active. Another position where they're going to look to add some additions on roster cut down day, pick up some guys on waivers that they like.
Yeah. Yeah, they might be moving around here, but also to your point, I'll also say that the starting talent is better than it's been for
100%.
Years. So we're giving off some of the depth, but also to have a much better starting unit.
Exactly. Okay, that's offensive line. So D tackles up next, and we have the same 7 guys, right? So we have the Eagles taking 7 defensive tackles. Which is a lot. It sounds like a lot, but I think like we talked about, they like to go big on offensive line. They also like to go big at defensive tackle. Those are 2 positions that the Eagles value. They like to kind of stack up the middle on the defense. So we both have Fletcher Cox, Jalen Carter, Milton Williams, Jordan Davis. We both have Moro Ojomo making the roster. Now he is dealing with a concussion right now. We're kind of up. We're both. We both don't know exactly what the Eagles are going to do with him, if he's going to be healthy enough for week 1. So he's a potential IR stash as well. So I would keep an eye on that. We both have Kentavious Street making the roster. He did not dress in the Eagles' final preseason game. I think that's a pretty good indication that he's going to make the roster as well. And we also have Marlon Tiapolotu on the roster. That's 7 defensive tackles from both Thomas and I. Again, sounds like a lot, but I think all these guys are deserving of roster spots.
Yeah, and also just the way that they're rotating on the defensive line, like they want to keep as many fresh bodies in there as well, and they've been stashing talent now for a long time. So like you're not going to give up on young talent when you actually acquire it. So that's why like Ojomo 7th round pick might as well not have made the roster. But he's just been too good to like you're not gonna get him back if you just straight up release him. Like you said, can be with an injury settlement, like injury IR to begin with, and then get activated later in the season when he's 100% ready. Tuipulotu was a guy that I was a little bit back and forth on if whether or not they should keep him. I think he isn't his 3rd season he's going into now.
3rd, I believe.
Yeah, and I just haven't been too impressed with him, but then again, if Ojomo goes into the injured IR, they want to keep a full rotation in the defensive interior, and then it will make sense to have Tuipulotu. Yeah, like you said, Street not dressing for the last game, that is absolutely an indication that he's making the team, and he should. I mean, he's looked explosive when he's been in there, and I think he is he's a better depth piece to keep on a vital position on the defense than some other positions like linebacker, for example.
It was funny when they did the Greedy Williams cut, and then they signed a bunch of guys. There's a bunch of roster moves there. They signed like 3 extra defensive tackles to play basically just 1 preseason game for them. So more guy here coming.
Who are these guys?
Yeah, exactly. Like I'm looking at the depth chart, like Robert Cooper, Caleb Sanders, Marvin Wilson. Marvin Wilson's been around.
Marvin Wilson's been a fan.
Yeah, he's been around. Olive Segapolo. I don't know if I'm reading that right on the Eagles depth chart here, but there's a lot of who's on the defensive tackle. But again, it goes to show again how he values that position. So he's going to continue to bring in guys that he thinks are worth it on that position. So yeah, 7 defensive tackles. Both Thomas and I are in agreement there. Okay, next up we have the edge rusher position, and we're both in agreement here again, and there's going to be kind of a little bit of a hot take on both of our ends here with one of them. We both have Hassan Reddick, Josh Sweat, Brandon Graham, Nolan Smith, and Derek Barnett making the roster. That's 5. And we have a 6 edge rusher making. We both have Kyron Johnson cracking the 53-man roster, Thomas. I think that's probably one that's going to be a little different than other people, but my reasoning, and I'm assuming it's going to be pretty similar to you, he can play special teams better than Patrick Johnson can, which is important. He's a lot quicker. He's a lot faster. He can contribute on that side of the ball. He played 16 games last year. Like, he was active most of the time, but like, he was on the roster last season, so I think that's important to remember as well. And one of the bigger reasons why I do have him making it, which is unfortunate, like it's because he has an appendectomy right now. Like, he's hurt. So I do think he's a potential IR candidate where they can stash him on the IR, get him through the 53-man roster, put him on IR. He'll miss the first 4 games of the year to recover from the appendectomy, and then they can make another roster move again, another addition, wide receiver, or wherever they want to go. So I feel like Patrick Johnson is okay to expose to waivers. I don't see a team going out of their way to pick up Patrick Johnson. I think he's a guy that can get on the practice squad. He's looked okay in training camp so far, but he played all the way into the fourth quarter in the third preseason game. So I think that's kind of a sign where maybe the Eagles' head is at with him. But we both have Kyron Johnson over Patrick Johnson for that last edge spot.
Yeah, and Kyron Johnson has the athleticism to go with him. Like, he has the speed where you just go, wow. And when you combine that with a significant impact in special teams, that goes a long way to making a roster spot as the last guy. Yep. And like, if you were to tell me to pick up anyone from the Eagles' depth, like any non-starter that I would want to put on special teams, it'll be Kyron Johnson over anyone.
Yep. Agreed. So, that's probably going to be one that's going to be a little different from other 53-man depth charts you see. But
they're wrong.
I've got a good feeling about this one. I think Thomas and I are going to be right there. Okay. Yeah. Next up, we have, so the edge rush, I don't think there's anything else really to discuss. We already talked about Patrick Johnson quickly here. Is there anyone else we're missing that maybe deserves a little bit of conversation? No, I think that's pretty much it.
Barnett has to make it. None of us wants to do it, but he has to make it just considering
be on the roster.
Contractual standpoint. Mm-hmm. Yeah. On that, Josh Sweat, again, I think he's going to put records up on sacks this season.
Yeah, I'm heavy on Josh Sweat for a breakout year this year. Okay, linebacker. This one, we have our second disagreement here. So I only have the Eagles taking 3 linebackers to make the roster to start it. Yeah, sounds crazy. But there's a method to my madness here. So I have Nakobe Dean, Zach Cunningham, and Christian Ellis making the roster day one. That's only 3 linebacker spots. I have Nicholas Morrow getting cut. So my thinking behind this is if he was to go through the 53-man roster, that means his salary is fully guaranteed off the bat. I think it's about $1.4 million. I could be wrong there, but it's in that low $1 million mark. So I know it's not a ton of money, but it's something. So if you keep him on the roster, he's got to be paid that. If you don't, you can cut him. And I don't think, similar to other players I've talked about, I don't think Nicholas Morrow is going to be a guy that teams are going to be jumping out of their way to get on their 53-man rosters if he is cut. He was only signed for a 1-year cheap $1 million deal in free agency. I think the league knows what he is. So I think he's a guy that if you do cut, you can stash on the practice squad, and then kind of if you need him, you can elevate him and whatnot. But again, 3 linebackers is light, so I'm taking a risk with this one. I do think, again, there's a little bit of method in my madness. I'm kind of just trying to jump in Howie Roseman's mind here, but it kind of just shows Thomas of the depth, what I kind of think of the depth of this linebacker position. Like, I think Nakobe Dean, Christian Ellis, and Zach Cunningham are solid. I think that's fine to start off with, but this is a position where I do think the Eagles could trade for someone, and I do think they could add someone at the 53-man roster cut down. I really think they're going to be active looking for a linebacker.
I'll go as far as to say I think Christian Ellis is cut before Nicholas Morrow. Both of them are in the last year of their deal. So basically you can view it as Christian Ellis and Nicholas Morrow are both on 1-year deals. Christian Ellis is how old?
24, 25, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Nicholas Morrow isn't much more than that, I don't think.
No.
And just purely from he's 28. Just purely from a football perspective, I think that Morrow outplayed Ellis in the preseason games. I haven't seen too much of Christian Ellis because there isn't too much to look at. Nicholas Morrow has a ton of starting experience from prior games where he's been starting. I think he started for both the Bears and the Raiders. Am I wrong?
Bears for sure. I don't know about the Raiders. I think you're right.
He was signed to the Raiders. I don't know if he managed to actually play games for them before he got injured.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think Nicholas Morrow is a better player than Christian Ellis. But I just don't. I think Eagles want a full backup set of linebackers so they don't go into games with one only backing up two positions. Just that'll be aggressive from my perspective, but it could be you could be right that they keep three initially and they do some roster gymnastics, so they do have two backups dressing for games, and what that looks like, I don't know if it's someone else or if it's practice squad being elevated or but yeah, that's my take on it.
Yeah. I do think Nicholas Morrow is going to stick around. Like, I feel like if you cut Christian Ellis, he's a guy that a team could snag. So I don't think you want to expose him to waivers. He's only 24 years old.
Yeah, I disagree.
I think he's looked fine in the preseason. You're right. Like, he hasn't had the splash plays, but in practice, especially at the beginning of training camp, he looks solid. I just think he's a guy they're going to want to keep around. Yeah, the linebacker room, like, I really think Howie Roseman's going to make a move here. Like, I think he's going to be very active, looking for a trade option or a waiver audition here.
They didn't expect suddenly to lose Mollis Jack. That was for sure. And they signed both of those guys for a reason. Yeah, Morrow played over 1,000 snaps in 2022. He played 800 snaps in 2020 and 2019. So he like, if you want to keep a thin linebacking room, you want and Nakobe Dean is your first year starter for one of them. I think you want to keep experience around it. You don't want to kick in guys who are raw, and I don't think the talent of Christian Ellis is good enough as to where you want to preserve him for a spot, just simply based off being worried about exposing to waivers. I don't think anyone's picking him up.
Yeah, and I was trying to think, like, there's not a lot of linebackers that come to mind that are available for trade. Patrick Queen got a lot of that hype during the offseason, but he's not going to be available. It sounds like the Ravens are going to roll with him as a starter. So we'll see. We'll see what happens on roster cut down there at the linebacker position. But yeah, they're not set there. Like, this is not a set and done position.
Work in progress. Yeah.
Exactly. Okay. Next up, we have cornerbacks. So we each have 6 cornerbacks making the roster here. Let me put the spreadsheet up on the screen. There we go. So we both have James Bradbury, Darius Slay, Avonte Maddox, Josh Jobe, Keely Ringo, and Eli Ricks, is going to make the roster in both of our opinions. I think he's earned it, Thomas. He's looked great in preseason. He's been one of the best cornerbacks basically in the entire preseason. I know you're playing against second and third stringers, but Eli Ricks 100% there's a roster spot here.
Yeah, played well against Pierce. Played well against what's the guy?
Michael Pittman,
exactly.
Yeah. So that play on Alec Pierce was unbelievable. Like, that was a great diving breakup.
Yeah, he has outside cornerback starting ability.
Agreed.
Look like projecting moving forward. I think that's a really good young core to have backing up 2 veterans, and both all 3 of them are under contract for a long way here. So, like, if you're set at that position, you don't have to be spending roster spots and capital on guys moving forward, because you have your projected starters in years to come, and you have JB and Slay on a contract for 2 more years. That's a good situation.
Yeah, like, I could see Josh Jobe and Eli Ricks being the starters here in like 3 years. Like, no joke. Like, I think they're that talented.
If they keep, especially if they keep the same trajectory, of course.
Agreed. Eli Ricks has been one of my the pleasant surprises this year. It's been awesome to see. He's kind of he's come up on the roster. It's cool.
How do you feel about Mario Goodrich not making it in our?
He was injured. He didn't play in the third preseason game. I don't think he showed enough. Like, I think if you're going to keep him, you're probably thinking as a backup slot. But like we discussed, like, they had James Bradbury playing in the slot, some reps at training camp. So it sounds like if they were to lose Avonte Maddox, James Bradbury would move over to the slot, and they would have Josh Jobe on the outside, which I think is solid. I think it's fine.
Yeah, 100% fine. Yeah, Mekhi Gartner, he had some plays.
Yeah, he had the 2 interception practice.
I don't think he's going to get picked up. You think? No,
I don't think so. I've seen a couple Eagles beat writers and stuff having him making the roster. It sounds like he had the last good 2 weeks, but I don't think they're keeping 7 corners.
Nope, no chance.
Just not something Howie does. So those are our 6. Okay, next up, we got safety position. So you have 4 safeties making the roster. I have 5. Now I'm gonna pass this off to you, because I think this is probably the biggest hot take out of both of us. Hit me with what you got at safety.
Yeah, so for me it was I think that we differ on linebacker and on safety, and
Mhm.
and for me it was a numbers game in terms of keeping 5 safeties and then 3 linebackers or 4 in each position. And to me, it just makes sense to keep 2 backups that are designated to their position. And so it was Morrow versus Edmonds for me. And the way that their contracts are constructed, they're both very cuttable. In that you're not paying them that much. So and like they're both veteran players who probably reach most of their ceiling. So I think Justin Evans provides more on special teams than Edmonds does for the safety position. I think Wallace is a guy that Eagles are seeing development from here in late stage. Wallace is not a roster lock by any means.
No.
The reason I put him on is simply because he's a 4th round pick for the Eagles. So maybe some hometown love there for
Howie doesn't
Wallace.
want to get rid of his baby.
Right, exactly. And so and Wallace is a decent special teams player as well. So
Yep.
you get that you get that from him. Blankenship Brown, like that just makes sense. So to me and Justin Evans has been playing well. It's been rotating like you pointed out to me, pretty consistently with the first team defense. And he didn't play in the last game, did he?
He did a little bit. I think he put in some snaps in the first and
All
second
right.
quarter. But
Yeah.
I think
It was
Thomas,
cold early.
I think he's starting day one at safety right now. If I was to take a guess, I think it's
Mhm.
Justin Evans and Reed Blankenship. I think Sidney Brown is going to make his way at some point during the season,
Mm.
but it sounds like the Eagles are really comfortable with Justin Evans.
Yeah.
He's had some injury issues, but he was a highly touted prospect. I think
Yeah.
he's got juice still. But yeah, I think you're gonna see Justin Evans lead the way beside Blankenship day one to start.
Yeah, and to me, the starting safety position next to Reed Blankenship has mostly been up to Sidney Brown, Evans, and Wallace more
Mhm.
so than Edmonds. But I mean, the safety position here could go a whole another way, and I wouldn't be surprised.
So Thomas has Terrell Edmonds not making the roster, baby. Love a spicy take. I actually like again, we before we talked, like I have 5 safeties and I don't love it. This is another position where I'm very like unconfident. Like I think they're going to axe one of these guys. I think it's between Edmonds and Wallace. I think one of those guys is getting cut. I would probably lean Edmonds like you, but like again, it's just I don't know.
It's
Like I
just
don't know what their
they're
mindset is.
just not like they're not these safeties are not good to the point where you want to sacrifice other positions
Yeah.
for that.
I
Like I would
agree. Yeah.
rather keep Eli Ricks and then sacrifice a safety. I would rather keep 2 linebackers that I'm comfortable with backing up than I would keep one of these safeties because the linebackers I know they can contribute on special teams probably to the same level. I'm for sure not cutting a defensive lineman, which they value a lot of, and just talent wise are a lot better. So yeah, to me the safety is the most
Up
easily
in the air.
cuttable of these guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Howie's got tough decisions to make, man, especially as safety and linebacker. It's going to be interesting. But yeah, I've got 5 safeties. Thomas has 4 with Trellman's off the roster. I love it, baby. We got some spiciness to the end of this. All right. Next up, special teams. We both this one's funny. So if
It's
you've
so
been
bad.
following on YouTube, if you've been checking the bottom here, going, they don't have a punter. And are Thomas and Brenden forgetting about a punter here? We have not forgot about the punter position,
We're
guys.
going for it.
We have it here. We're taking swings here. And there's again method to our madness here. So we have Jake Elliott as a kicker and Rick Lovato as this long snapper. We both don't have a punter originally making the roster. So we're both in agreement that Aaron Sipos has not done enough in training camp or in preseason to make the team. He's averaging 40 yards a punt right now. He's been awful all preseason. So we both think that they're going to cut Aaron Sipos and take a look at the waiver wire for a punter. I don't know how many punters are going to get released. And again, the Eagles are at the bottom of the waiver order. So we'll see if they can get access to one. And then if they need to bring Sipos back, if they don't find one, they can easily do that. I don't think a team's rushing out there to sign Aaron Sipos. So we both think the Eagles are going to go into the roster without a punter. And again, this goes back to our talks with they can stash Kyron Johnson, they can stash more Ojimo on IR, they can make room for on the roster once they get through the 53-man cutdown to find a punter.
Yeah.
I know that was a big rant on punting, but hey, it's part of the team.
Make punting great again.
Yeah, basically.
Sucked at it for too long. How can you have such a good kicker in Jake Elliott and then suck so bad at punting? It makes the whole special teams look bad.
Man. Howie can't figure out the punter position for some reason. It's been kind of his Achilles heel over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
If you're gonna be bad somewhere. If you're gonna be bad
Aaron
somewhere.
Siposs was so bad last year.
Yeah. And he's been bad this preseason, man. Like he can't. There's a couple punts that are like going to the end zone where you need to kind of lock those inside the 20. He's averaging like 40, but it's been rough.
So Sentner was the third worst punter in the entire preseason from PFF. And Siposs was the third worst punter for regular and postseason last year in the league. Nice. Do you know who the second worst was last year?
Who did they bring in? Oh, the guy that punted the Super Bowl, right?
Brett Kern. So the replacement for Aaron Siposs when he was injured.
Yeah, he got cut already. He's not even on a team. Like the
Eagles had two of the worst of 48 punters last year.
That's spectacular.
How do you do that?
Howie's losing sleep over this right now. Find a punter, Howie. Find a punter. Yeah, but the Jake Elliott thing, like I was when he kicked that 59-yarder in the preseason game, I was thinking back, like I was kind of going back into Eagles land from 2017. It's crazy that they just snagged him off the Bengals practice squad for nothing. And then he's just become the
Jason Peters made his career, remember?
Yeah, basically. Imagine you're Jake Elliott and you just hear Jason Peters go like, or you have someone come up to you like, JP needs to talk to you. You're Jake Elliott going, oh, really? Do I have to?
I don't want to.
Anyways, that is our 53-man roster. So our disagreements here, I'm going to put it up on the screen one more time before we get out of here. So our disagreements are at wide receiver. Thomas has Devin Allen making it. I only have 4 wide receivers making it. Thomas has 9 offensive linemen. I have 10, and Josh Andrews making the roster. We are both we're in a disagreement as well. Linebacker, I have 3 linebackers making the roster. Thomas has 4 with Nicholas Morrow making it. And Thomas has 4 safeties making it. I have 5. So Thomas has Terrell Edmonds getting cut. I have him making the roster. And good. We're pretty much in agreement on a lot of things. Of course, linebacker and safety is going to be different from everyone, but I think we've got a good wavelength here. We're on the same vibes for the most part.
Yeah, we got 4 differences.
Mm-hmm. Not bad. Anything else before we want to get out of here? Anything to keep an eye on?
The regular season to start. I really need the regular season to start now.
Yeah, I'm ready, man. We are, as of today, we're 15 days away from Eagles opening their season against New England Patriots. Tuesday is going to be very interesting, man. I think I like how they changed from the 93 or the 90 man to the 53 in one day. I think it makes things a lot more exciting. Like we're going to see a ton of movement across the league.
Oh, can I throw out one hot take before we start the regular season?
Of course.
I think Devontae Smith got extended before the start of the season.
Can they? Do they? I think they.
I don't know if they can. If they can, they'll do it.
I think he needs to play 3 years first. I think after next year.
Does he though? Okay.
I think I could be wrong here, but I think that's how the CBA has it.
Fuck.
I'll give you a hot take. Can I give you a Devontae Smith hot take?
Hit it.
I think he has more receiving yards than AJ Brown this season.
Is that a hot take though? I feel like a lot of Eagles fans are expecting that.
I think he's a top 10 receiver in the NFL. Like it's like I already think he is, but I think you're going to see the national media think that Devonta Smith is a top 10 receiver.
So freaking ridiculous. Like I don't think there is a receiver in the NFL who is able to who has the body control of Devonta Smith. Like the way he those catches he makes on the sidelines or high points balls right at the sideline and then still able to keep his body in bounds, and it's I think his size really goes to his advantage there. Like he doesn't have a lot of mass he needs to move around with. Like when he catches the ball, he's so quick at getting his feet down or having some part of his body touch inbounds before he goes out. Like the one at the Super Bowl against the Chiefs that they called incomplete. I still want to swear to this day that was a complete catch.
It's a catch, baby.
That's just absurd. Like that's not supposed to be a catch. Like
yeah. He's like mastered the art at wide receiver.
Yeah.
Like all the little details, like where to fit yourself on the sideline, where to stop your cuts, where to turn, how to use your body to control a DB's movement. He's like, he could teach wide receiving 101. He's a guy that I can see being a wide receiver coach when he's done. And he's athletic, of course, but he's not like, he doesn't have the crazy athletic traits and body type like everyone else. Like he's had to master this art to become a top receiver. Like, I think he's going to be like the MVP of the Eagles offense outside of Jalen Hurts this season. He's probably one of the most exciting guys on the team. I'm all in on Devonta Smith. And I also think that they're going to put to bed. The Eagles can't keep A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith. Hell no, that's not going to happen. They are keeping both. Like, Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown are both going to be on this roster for the foreseeable future. Howie Roseman just doesn't let young talent walk out the door like that, especially homegrown young talent.
Nope. He's phenomenal, man.
All right, that's all we got. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. Really appreciate that as our 53-man roster prediction. And then the next game, the Eagles take on the New England Patriots in 2 weeks. So Thomas and I, we're going to be back at some point, probably doing a week one preview game. I'm going to start diving in on some New England Patriots, figure out where.
When we actually get the rosters, though, we should we do like a follow-up episode here to see how wrong we were?
For sure. Yeah, 100%. Down for that. We're not going to be wrong, though, buddy. I
know. I mean, one of us is going to be more right than the other. We have four.
Do we put a wager on do we put a wager on our 53 men who gets the most right? Do we got to send something to someone?
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay. What do you want the wager to be?
Let's do dinner and drinks in Philly at a game.
Okay. We have to get to Philly.
We have to get to Philly.
Yeah. Are you planning on going at all this year?
Yeah, I have to go this year.
I think I'm going to go to November. I think I'm going to go to that Cowboys game. I've got it.
Yeah, I have to go because in the event that we get some pregnancy thing going here, I need to be able to get out the country before I get a kid. Like all my friends, when they get kids, they just get isolated.
Yeah,
like,
that's how it works.
Yeah, and I need to get out. I need to get out before, while I can.
Oh my God! Before you turn into a dad, get to an Eagles game.
Exactly.
All right, dinner and drinks. That's it, baby. I'm holding you to that. Once I become the Double Doink Podcast 53-man roster prediction champion, you're buying me drinks and food in Philly. Nice cheesesteak with a beer. All right, that's it. That's all we got. So thanks so much for tuning in, guys. Really appreciate it. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Tons of video content coming your way. You won't be disappointed, I promise. And if you're listening on audio, you can always subscribe to the YouTube channel, watch us over. We had the spreadsheet going the entire episode. You can kind of see, visualize what we were thinking and all the roster spots there on a spreadsheet. Make sure to check out our sponsors, BetterHelp and Sweat Taylor. And we will talk to you later.